And then I look up, and right where that GoPro is, right there, there's an alligator looking at me. I'm like, oh my gosh, that wasn't a boat, that was a gator. And she's looking at me, I'm looking at her. My name is Jeffrey Heim. I own Shark Co. My shark tooth journey actually started here in South Carolina, freediving the Edisto River. I was with Shark Week cameraman Mark Rackley, who's a mentor to me, a huge part of my life. I used to live with him in the Florida Keys when I was a commercial spear fisherman. So that's where he taught me how to spearfish. He taught me how to dive. And I went with him and his family, and we free dove 12 miles of that river together as a team. I was just so accustomed to doing risky stuff with sharks and spearfishing with them, and they would dive all these rivers free diving because they're really good free divers. So I would just follow their lead and get comfortable free diving in darker rivers like that. And we found some angustidens. We thought they were megs back then, and I was hooked. It was the most unbelievable thing I'd ever experienced in my life. It was so cool that I left spearfishing. And I didn't know when I was going to college up in Dade City, Florida, about 2 hours north of Venice. I didn't know that Venice was even the shark tooth capital of the world. I knew nobody. But once I found out there was shark teeth in Venice, I got a sifter, and I sifted for 5 hours in the wrong area and only found one tiny shark tooth. But I just kept going back and learning a little bit more and learning a little bit more, and I kept doing better. I would free dive out there alone. I didn't have any friends who did that with me. No one would go. I mean, here and there, people would go with me. And then Mark Rackley, who I was talking about diving the Edisto with, he lives in the Keys. He's always filming for Shark Week across the world. He would be the only one who would dive with me for shark teeth. So when he was in town, we would go, and we would go hard. We would go in the Mayaca River, just me and him. We go for hours, wake up early, and we would dive in that Blackwater River until the sun went down. And it was so dark you wouldn't even know it was nighttime. You'd be down there, and we would come up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's dark. It's night. And that river's loaded with alligators, by the way, absolutely loaded. Peace River is another good river. We tried there, but Mark was able to really hone it in, and he got on some good stuff in the Mayaca. I went back to where me and Mark had been successful in the past. That's where I had found my best Meg, and I just wanted to find shark teeth. I did not want to stay home and watch TV. With who I was around spearfishing, we all just like laughed off these risks of risking our lives. Like, they would dive 240 feet on air. I wouldn't do anything like that. Like, they would literally every single day we worked, they're riding the line of life and death, but they're really good at it because they're still alive. But that became so normal to me that I was like, I basically, not knowing much about alligators, I was way overconfident. And I was like, alligators are like sharks. If you don't mess with them, don't splash around, don't act like prey, you'll be fine. That is not the case. But I just really wanted to find shark teeth, and I didn't have any friends that would go with me. So I went, and I'm free diving like we would always free dive. It was a Sunday, so I couldn't even get tanks. And a minute after I got my fins on, my mask on, my wetsuit on, and I'm looking around, it's all really peaceful, really calm, and it's a small part of this river too. It's not very far. It's like 20 yards bank to bank, and it's only like 8 feet deep. And we had been there before. I'd spent so much time in this same area before, several times. And I'm trying to find gravel. I only see sand, and I never found gravel that day. But as I'm trying to find gravel, I am going up and down, which now I understand wasn't the best thing to do that day. However, I go up and down a couple times. It's like a minute and a half, and I go down one last time, and I just felt like I got slammed by a boat going 50 miles an hour to my right side of my head, and I got ripped down to the left, just ripped down so powerfully. Like, it was the most force I had ever experienced in my life, just pulling me. And I'm lucky I was pulled up because I was down. They always say you get bit by alligators if you're on the surface. And she pulled me up, and I'm so lucky that she pulled me up into air rather than water, because that first gulp was air. But that boat going back was not a boat. I thought it was a propeller on a boat. And my first thought was, where in the world did that boat come from? Because normally you hear a boat coming 3 bends down the river. You hear it coming the whole way, especially if you're underwater. You can hear those boats. So I was so confused. And then I look up, and right where that GoPro is, right there, there's an alligator looking at me. I'm like, oh my gosh, that wasn't a boat. That was a gator. And she's looking at me. I'm looking at her that close. And I feel my head right here. I don't know if you can see it from here, but I feel my hair out here a couple inches. And I had never felt my hair over here, like 3 inches out here. And I was like, that's bad. Then I see my hand, blood's all over my hand. And this part of my scalp was open and flapping. And I found out later they could see my skull. So this was open. You can see the bottom half of her snout right here. When I go bald, you'll see the full both sides of her snout on my head. So that's, I guess, something to look forward to. But I'm so lucky that she gave me a second to kind of collect my thoughts and understand what was going on. And then we're looking at each other, and she just had that look like she wanted to kill me. Like, I have always loved alligators. I love reptiles. I think they're so cool. I've always loved, like, being around them and saying, like, I dive in alligator-infested waters. I just think it's awesome. But, like, the look she had, like, she wanted to end my life and just completely destroy me. Like I said, I was lucky that she gave me that second to collect myself a little bit, because then 2 more times she tried to get me. So I had to dodge one more bite, and my fins are out in front of me like this. I had to dodge that one. That was kind of a lunge. And then she really quickly tried to kill me and grab me again. And I had to dodge that one a lot quicker. And I'm really lucky I had my fins out in front, and I was able to, I had my long fins on, freediving fins, so I had more power. I could get away quicker. And I'm really lucky she didn't get me. And then I come out to the bank. I got away, and I climb out of this bank. It's like that high. And then I didn't make it very far because I was apparently in a lot of shock. I just got so tired, like immediately exhausted. I just wanted to take a nap. I was so tired. And that's where I thought I was going to die. I'm so lucky that there were other people there. Steven and Renee Rosenberger, who I now know. Steven is an ex-firefighter. He ran into the restaurant, grabbed the first aid kit, and they saw me a bloody zombie mess. Like, it was crazy, but they sprung into action. I'd never met these people before, just great Samaritans. And like I said, I couldn't walk very far because I was so tired. I just sat down on the ground, and I think I yelled to them a little bit. I was like, help, help, I just got bit by an alligator. And and then eventually the cops show up, the ambulance showed up. And now I've talked to all these people since then, and they told me that I was just complete shock. And like I said, I thought I was going to pass out 2 different times. And that's where I thought, like, my life would slip away from me and that everybody else would just continue living without me. So, and at that moment, I wasn't in any pain. And believe it or not, it was like not a scary thing because there was no anticipation. I wasn't expecting anything. It just happened, and I was just as calm as I am now. Like, just no difference in demeanor. Like, it was just a difference of 30 seconds ago. It was just a wild experience, like, coming to grip with, okay, I might die any second now because nobody knows what's going on. I asked the ex-firefighter, Steven, I was like, how bad is it? What's going on? Because I can't see it. It's back here. And there's a lot of blood, and I'm super lightheaded. And I sit down, and I wait for the ambulance to come, and they come. I think it was pretty quick. They take me to Sarasota Memorial Hospital. And the whole ride there, I'm like, why is this not hurting yet? Like, it's crazy how there was no pain yet. And I'm asking the paramedics, I'm like, guys, what is going on? Like, I have no clue what's happening. Like, how bad is it? They're not telling me. Because I can tell they're not trying to worry me, you know, when they try to keep you calm, and that's what matters. But that, I'm not freaking out, but I'm very, like, nervous. I don't know when the lights are going to go out. So I end up being coherent the whole time, and I think I remember everything. But once they brought me to the hospital, they said, there's going to be a lot of people looking at you. I said, okay. And then they rolled me in, and there was like 30 people just staring at me, because now I know they just all wanted to see an alligator attack, because that doesn't happen very often. But they were all staring at me, and it was really weird. And they rushed me into the operating room, and they start cleaning the wound, which hurt a lot, and then start adding the staples. There's 34 of them. And yeah, it sounds literally like a stapler to your head, like you would expect it to sound and feel. That's what it feels like. And you can feel your skin being pinched closer together, back together each time with every staple. And yeah, they're putting numbing shots in, and then they get more onto the top of my head, which also got bit. And I'm like, guys, I need more numbing shots on the top. And then once they get me all closed up, they're like, you know what? We think you're going to live. And I was like, what? You think I'm going to live? And they said, yeah, it's not as bad as you thought. And then that's when the severity of the moment really set in for me. And I just felt like my emotion, like, come up from my feet and like up my legs and up my body. And then I just started crying like a baby. I had never cried so hard in my life. It was really intense, and I kept crying for the next 2 hours. Man, it was just such a wild moment that just literally changed my life. So the camera cut out before I could go over this, but I want to make sure everybody understands what happened to the alligator. So in the beginning, I asked FWC to not even remove the alligator. I was in her home, and I wanted nothing to change, because I just shouldn't have gone in the water, and she was just doing what any alligator does during mating season, and that is protect a nest. First of all, I said, please don't kill it. And then I said, please don't even remove it. Like, there's no reason to do that, in my opinion. But they did legally have to remove it, but they were never going to kill it. The gator ended up dying, but not because of the trappers. A 13-foot alligator killed her when she was on the line and they were trying to remove her. So it did not die at the hands of a human. Another alligator literally killed her, which is just crazy. But that's now why I have the skull. They were just going to relocate her at a farm so she can live out her life like any other nuisance alligator. But this was considered an emergency nuisance alligator, which is what happens anytime an alligator attacks a person. They just have to remove it. But thanks for watching this crazy story, guys. We're about to release another even crazier alligator attack story with William Georgitis, who you probably also saw on the news diving for Megalodon shark teeth in South Carolina, the Cooper River. He had a much longer fight with the alligator and afterwards in terms of recovering. So his was way worse than mine, and I was really lucky to sit down with him and get to talk about everything that happened to him without the filter of the news. He just goes off with everything that happened, and in my opinion, it's way crazier than what happened to me. So that's going to be the next video that comes out. So definitely stick around to watch that when it comes out in like 2 weeks.